Yeah, if you're not comfortable with your camera on, definitely turn it off. I should have said that before I press record. But hello, everyone. Welcome to UX Design for Web3. And I really hope that you learn lots. And TAs, welcome to answer in a chat because I probably will not be able to multitask and present at the same time and reply to your messages. But yeah, nice to meet you. I am Bonny. I classify myself as a product designer, and I'm currently on a design team at nwPlus, and I'm also in the GRS or Global Resource Systems program at UBC. And I would consider myself as a crypto Web3 enthusiast, definitely new to it all, but I got roped into it after I started following a few accounts on Twitter, and I just kept on seeing more and more and more, and then I ended up just only seeing crypto on my Twitter feed. I don't know if anybody can relate, but yeah, so after looking at the feed for a while, probably a few weeks, I kind of got tired of seeing the jargon and just not getting and not understanding what any of it means. And according to Mr. Richard Feynman, or Feynman, I don't know how to say his name, the best way to learn is to teach others. So here I am. A little bit about our journey today. We're going to be going over a few things. So talking about what the heck is Web3, and then defining some jargon to make your lives easier. Then going into some dApp design guidelines. I'll be sharing some learning resources, and we'll have a short Q&A at the end. So what the heck is Web3? I ask myself this every single day, and I don't think I have a coherent or just like a one sentence explanation as to what it is. And like many people, a lot of people don't know what it is. And one definition I found was that you just put everything on the blockchain. The current state of Web3 is quite confusing and, again, full of jargon, making it not very user-friendly. And through this workshop, I'm hoping that I can alleviate some of the confusion and simplify it through some contextual, relatable writing and storytelling. So I think the best way that I understood Web3 was through the context of the transition of the webs. So to talk about Web3 a little bit, which is considered the read-only phase, and it happened between 1980s and it went till the early 2000s. So Web 1 usually consisted of just static pages, and it rarely produced content. It was basically shifting print media to the internet, and it led to less censorship as well because there was more access to the internet rather than all of the information coming from newspaper companies. And there were just a few companies that controlled the content. And for example, one of those is Craigslist, actually. But we transitioned over into Web 2, which is considered the read-write phase. And this started in the early 2000s all the way till present day. And it's the era of tech giants and social platforms, things that you're probably very familiar with, like Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, all of those big platforms. And users, they create and consume content in increasing quantities. And these mega powerful tech companies, they supply these platforms. But usually these companies also act as the middleman between the consumer and the content. And then this is the thing that we all came for, the Web 3.0, the read, write, and own. And I think the boom, from my research at least, it really boomed in the last 2-3 years, and it's the era of ownership. So users can create, consume, and own their content as well. This ownership comes in the form of tokens. Web3 is built on like a peer-to-peer network of computers that communicate with each other, and it avoids the need for a middleman compared to Web 2. And an example would be if you want to send money to a friend, you don't need to go through a bank. You can just send it directly to them and eliminate that middleman. So blockchain, it's not completely irrelevant to Web3. This technology is fueling the economy, or like the creator economy, and most likely many of us will be designing for these applications one day. these dApps, and more tools are being built to give users the environment to take back control of the content that they interact with. So as you can see on this screen, there's just a bunch of words: blockchain, Bitcoin, DeFi, dApps or dApps, whatever you want to call it, crypto, smart contracts, NFTs, Ethereum, and DAOs. Like, what do all these terms mean? And there's just too much jargon in the Web3 community. And because of that, there's a high cognitive load because you spend most of the time trying to trim down the jargon, explain what it is. And right now, since a lot of people are still trying to learn about this new web that is happening, there's a lot of benefit to using less jargon if that's possible. Eventually, we're going to have to switch into more jargon, but right now, since everyone's still so fresh, it would benefit a lot of people to eliminate that. And there's a lot of jargon, but in this workshop, I'm only going to be focusing on a few. Even the few is going to seem like a lot, but I promise I'm not trying to overwhelm you. It's just what made sense, and I needed to explain it before I could go into the other things that I'm going to be talking about. And as a designer, at least, or architects of front-end UI or even back-end UI, you have to understand where the future of technology is headed so that we can create even more secure, efficient, and intuitive front-end systems that align with this shift in ownership. And again, the current state of Web3 is confusing, not user-friendly, and most people don't really have an idea as to how much value it can actually provide to our lives. And the challenge here for designers is to hide as much complexity in the Web3 products and focus on what really matters for the user, while also trying to make it less daunting. I hope the chat is popping off. I don't really know what's going on. But we'll go into the second part of the workshop, which is basically defining a bit of jargon. And I know nobody really likes to be told definitions in presentations. I'm not a fan of it either. So I'll try my best to make it as quick as possible without confusing you. But once you have an idea of what each thing is, this whole daunting world of Web3 will not be as scary as not be as scary as it seems anymore. And let's just jump right into it. So blockchain, you can think of it as a history of transactions between parties on a forum that can be accessible by anyone. So if you think of a blockchain, it's literally a block on a chain, and each block has a list of transactions, and each block has a hash, or you can consider it like a long string of random characters. And because each block has it and they're linked together, in order to make a blockchain, the only way to add another block is if other nodes agree. So you have to check the hash on the previous block to see if it matches, and then you can add a new block onto the chain. And the reason why the blockchain is so valuable is because of primarily 3 or 4 things. So the first being that it's decentralized. So that means there's no governing authority over the transactions, and the network is maintained by a group of nodes. And that essentially means that there's no one place where you can find all the information, because all the information is spread out in many different computers. And secondly, that it is immutable. So once the transaction is committed, it can't be changed. And one example that actually kind of scared me the other day was when I lost my recovery code for my cryptocurrency wallet, and I was panicking because there's no way to get your password. There's like no lost password function. You have to like go into your computer in order to find it. So it's immutable in that sense. So definitely, if you make any passwords, write it down somewhere, don't lose it, because it's just a headache to get back. Thirdly, it is open. So because it is transparent, anyone can view a transaction. So I know there are certain transactions that you don't really want to show people, like your medical bills or anything, but for other transactions, like if you're buying an NFT or some picture, then you probably want to see like, oh, is this the real picture? Is this from the original source? And you want to just like fact check and double check to make sure that you're getting the real deal. And lastly is just that it's a lot quicker to settle anything because you don't have a middleman to basically check your transactions. You're doing it by yourself, and you have enhanced security because of that. That was a long definition. This one's a bit shorter. So Bitcoin is a blockchain, and it's essentially a decentralized network that allows people to transfer and exchange value. So an example of this would be peer-to-peer payments, and you can pay without a middleman. And then Ethereum is also another blockchain, and it allows for the development of decentralized applications, or dApps, which is what we're going to be talking about later today, the design portion of it, not the actual development, because I'm a designer, just making sure people know. So Ethereum, again, it's flexible. An example that I could talk about is just paydays, like Money Tree. Essentially, there are third parties that charge people high APRs and interest so that they have to pay back more than they initially borrowed. So you go to them to borrow money, essentially. And smart contracts essentially fix that, because if you borrow the money at fixed intervals, you can get it at a lower cost, and it enables the agreement to occur automatically and keep your information safe. And this is all possible because of Ethereum, this blockchain. And as of today, you still have to prove that you can pay for things. You have to put in personal details about yourself and attach your credit card number, and that info can be saved by third parties. So your security and privacy are sacrificed. But with Ethereum, this blockchain, it can send the Ether, which is the currency that is used in this blockchain, directly to the person that is selling you things, so that there's no intermediary that would be taking a cut of your money. And just to preface, but the internet was originally designed to be decentralized, but the way that we use it makes it seem like it's very centralized. And I think that's the point of Web3. We're trying to re-decentralize the internet. And smart contracts, they connect users directly, which allows more rich interactions and relationships to take place, because nobody has control over your content except yourself. So just to sum this up, what's the real difference between the two? Bitcoin essentially only has one purpose, where you can transfer and exchange value, and Ethereum has many purposes, and Ether is the currency to fuel the economy. So as for smart contracts, I promise I'm almost done the definitions. I promise. So they are programs stored on a blockchain and then they run when predetermined conditions are met. So for example, if you have a worker and a client, and you are the worker, as a worker, you don't get paid on time. So how can this smart contract help you? If you use a smart contract, this contract can list out and facilitate the transaction so that the payment goes out immediately to the worker and the client gets the deliverables right away. If you're like a developer and this makes more sense to you, it's like an if-else statement. Like, if you get these things, or if you meet these conditions, then you get the money, you get the deliverables, else you get nothing. So it's essentially an if-else statement. And can anybody in the chat just tell me what they think this is? I'll give like 30 seconds. You got a furry Mona Lisa picture. You got a sliding truck. You got some skull head. Okay, everybody already knows what it's NFT matrix. Okay, I see this. But yeah, essentially this is an NFT. And these NFTs are only possible because of smart contracts, and they are unique and non-interchangeable units of data stored on the blockchain. So there's two types of tokens. The first one is a fungible token. So that includes anything that's interchangeable, divisible, for example, like USD or Bitcoin. And then on the other hand, it's the non-fungible tokens, the NFTs that we're talking about. They're interchangeable, Oh, sorry. No, they are unique. They are non-replicable. And examples of that include art and domain names. And this is all powered on the Ethereum blockchain. So they also like run on smart contracts so that it's easy to tell who the owner, oh my goodness, owner of the particular NFT is. And currently, at least from my research on Twitter, very credible source, I'm telling you, they are expanding into sports, music, and a lot of different other industries. But the best part of NFTs is just the fact that it can bring people with common interests together. And who doesn't love to spend $2 million on a JPEG? Right click, save, am I right? All right, so dApps. The main thing that we're going to be talking about today is dApps or dApps. I really don't know what they're called. I think they're called dApps. But the main difference between the apps that we use today and dApps is just the backend, because they run on a blockchain like Ethereum. And the backend is different than an app that we might use now, but the UI is essentially the same. It can come in the form of games, social media, trading platforms, and a lot of dApps are quite difficult to navigate in like this point in time, and again, user unfriendly, just like jargon. So we'll be talking a bit about dApp design guidelines just to make it more friendly for everyone. So we're not planning to reinvent the wheel to design a better Web3. Like, people shouldn't be able to tell too much of a difference between the design in Web3 and in Web2. The interfaces should be quite familiar to the products that we are used to every day. And here we'll be talking about the traditional app. So the traditional app, you can see that there's a front end, there's an API and a database. So if we were to talk about the payday example again, it would be like your information, your data goes to a centralized database like a bank, and then the value comes out and then you get the money. But then a dApp is a little bit more complicated. It's actually not that complicated, but it just looks longer. But it goes from like front end, and then you have a smart contract to facilitate this transaction, and then you also connect it to the blockchain. So if we're paying rent money, your data goes to your crypto wallet, your Ethereum wallet, and then the value goes into this Ethereum virtual machine. So this is just where the transaction is processed through a distributed network of computers. And that's why Ethereum is so secure. And all the information is within many different computers, not in one centralized place. And that's the main difference between the regular apps and the dApps. And then the value goes into a wallet, and then the data goes into your phone and you get the money. But on the front end side, everything still looks the same, just the back end is a little bit different. So kudos to all of the developers that are working super hard and trying to make this more accessible for everybody. And a bit about the product design, as I am a product designer. The process is the same from Web 2 to Web 3. You're still going to empathize. You're going to do your user interviews. You're going to get to know the stakeholders, and you're going to create personas and define your problems. And then you're going to come up with different ideas using storyboards, user flows, making mood boards and sitemaps. You're going to go into your prototype phase, and you're going to test with your users. You put out your beta launch, and like you put out your beta, you launch it, you keep testing, you keep iterating. It's just an iterative process. This diagram is a little bit inaccurate because it's supposed to go in circles. It's supposed to be quite agile, but it looks quite linear. So don't take everything with a grain of salt, everyone. Don't just listen and look at diagrams and trust them on the first glance. But in terms of actual design considerations, because Web3 and just like blockchain, all these new concepts, it's a relatively new field, and people are usually skeptical of things that are newer to the market because there isn't a whole history to back it up, and they don't really have any like information to show that it's credible. So one of the objectives as designers is to create trust. And one of the ways that you can do it is to make your UI quite friendly. So if we look at this form, you can see that it is quite impersonal. It just tells you to enter your raw name. You enter number of other participants, it asks you your payment frequency. It's not very nice if you look at it. But if you compare it to the next UI, you can see in the red squares, no, rectangles that I put around the text, it asks me questions. It asks me what type of trusted lending circle I want to create. It asks me, what would I want to name it? Like, that is so kind. It even called me Bonny. That's amazing. That's so personal. And that automatically just makes me feel like they're more human rather than me talking to a robot. And if you create that sort of comfort, you can gain the user's trust. So this is one guideline that would be helpful. Another one would be to provide constant feedback. So it takes time to process things in the blockchain, and users don't really know when the transactions are done. So they have to keep on returning back to the app to see if their transaction was done already. And they set expectations of a wait time. Like, people like to know because it gives them comfort. Like, if your Amazon package didn't tell you when your thing was coming, you would start panicking. I would start panicking because I want to know when my lights are here. So even though everything is happening in the back end, you can still show them that something is happening in the front end as well. So an example of this would be, it's kind of blurry, I'm sorry about that, but in the red rectangles, you can see that it takes about 7 days for this round to end, but there are no updates in between. Like, you have no idea what's happening. You don't know if you're gaining money. You have no idea if you're losing money. You don't know if someone has taken your account or anything. So to make it better, you can have nice words. You can have your platform talk to you. Essentially, it's like, your bid is processing. We'll keep you posted. It's telling me what is happening. And then on the right-hand side, you can see all recent activity. It tells me every 3 seconds what happens. And 15 minutes ago, that this lady, I'm gonna name her Eva, she made a new contribution to my charity. Like, that's amazing. But just having this feedback is nice. So that's another guideline that I would do. And also guiding users away from creating errors. So as mentioned earlier, one of the perks of a blockchain is that it is immutable. And that also makes us think about the fact that not all transactions can be reversed on the blockchain. That's one of the risks, but it's also what makes it so secure and so reliable. After filling in all the information, it should progress to a stage where we can review their details and give additional friction, just in case they make some sort of mistake and they want to go back and fix it. So in this beautiful form that we have seen one time already, you can see that they just fill out the form, scroll to the bottom, and press submit. It's like applying for a job on Lever. If you know, you know. And the next thing is like a pop-up. It shows you and it tells you to like look over your details to make sure that you haven't made any mistakes. And if you did make a mistake, they give you an X so that you can go back, or a no, I'm not ready yet, so that you can go back as well. And you can see in this design as well that it uses very kind words. It tries to make it very human. It asks you, are you sure you want to proceed? Like, all these things are very personal, make it very comfortable for the users as well. And the fact that they are making sure that they are not making any mistakes, it's also a very human thing to do. They don't want people to get hurt. Like, if you lose money, you're gonna get hurt. Not physically, but mentally. Next one is show them the finish line. And I'll just show you here. Oh my goodness, this form keeps on haunting us. This is the 3rd time we've seen it, but you can see this form is not very good. And it doesn't show them the finish line. But if you see this next thing, at the top, you have a navigation, and it shows the users that they're slowly completing the form. And yeah, you have like type of circles, members, circle details, review. And this just helps show them that, or show users that something is actually happening, even though everything is happening in the back end. It's nice to be able to translate that over into the front end as well. So this is one detail that you can add to your designs as well. And this is the last one. But to avoid jargon, as mentioned at the beginning of the workshop, there are a lot of terms in Web3, blockchain, and just technical terms in general. If you can use layman terms, that is preferred, or reorganized information architecture to make the platform make more sense, and emphasize benefits over features. Like, why is it important to me? Why should I care? What value does it provide to my life? So to look at this, in the red rectangle, you can see create a Rosca. This Rosca is being deployed. This Rosca wasn't deployed on time and will not go ahead. What if you didn't know what a Rosca was? What if you didn't know what deployed meant? You see, all of this jargon is just very confusing, and then you have to go, oh, don't ask me what a Rosca was. It was some circle, some group. I searched it up, but then I forgot. I will put it in the Discord. But it's like a group of people. But in the new UI, you can see words that make more sense to a layperson, like active, pending, ended. And you can see that like certain things are happening or certain things have already passed on. And a new circle makes more sense than a new Rosca. Another word could be a new group, but essentially you're trying to create these lending circles so that you can like share the money or pass your money on to different people. But just using these lay people terms makes it easier for everybody to be able to use these dApps. And it's also another consideration that I would make when I'm designing things. So in terms of resources, as we are nearing the end of this workshop, I will post a lot of the resources in the Discord so that you can refer to it on your own time, because I will not be able to go over everything. But in terms of like being a designer in this space, don't think that just because everything's happening in the back end that you, as like somebody that works more on the front end, don't have value. Because that's one of the mistakes that I felt when I was first like browsing through things, because everybody was looking for developers and I was just this product designer that was floating around and feeling like I didn't fit in anywhere. But that's not true. I'm telling you right now, it's not true. There's lots of opportunities for you. And without design, you probably will have a really bad product. So don't feel like you don't have a place in like Web3, dApps, blockchain, all of this. Like, you belong. I'm telling you, you belong. But yeah, designers, they can come in and help connect the dApps to the people through user experience, because we are the bridge and we're actually very, very important. So I will, post these resources, but I'll talk about a few of them. Some of the first people that I followed on Twitter include Gabby Goldberg, Crypto Society S1, or Regan Not Reagan. They're super cool. They post a lot of interesting opportunities for everyone, and they also have a lot of talks or conferences that they've spoken at, so you can probably take a look and watch those videos. In terms of crypto wallets, you can check out MetaMask, Phantom, Coinbase wallet as well. There are also hardware and paper wallets, but I personally use a software wallet called MetaMask, and you don't necessarily have to put money in it to use it. You can just explore the UI and see what works, what doesn't, and maybe you can work in a DAO, which I will explain in a bit, to make it even better, to maybe like onboard people. How can you make it easier for everyone? I also listed some guides that I personally checked out to learn more about Web3. The links will be in Discord. And DAOs, I will explain this. So a DAO essentially stands for a decentralized autonomous organization. And as the name implies, it's just an entity with no central authority, aka no CEO. And they're effectively a new method for how businesses can be run. So the members of the DAO are the ones who collectively run and manage the organization. You can work on projects with people that are also interested in the same topics as you, and everyone can contribute to decision making because there's no hierarchy. So it's very comfortable to voice any ideas that you have. So as I mentioned earlier, like if you were exploring this crypto wallet and you felt like something wasn't right, you can probably find a DAO that's trying to make these wallets more accessible to everyone and fix it. But I have created a link here that you can check out for any other DAOs, and also apply for travel scholarships. I know Omicron is taking over everyone's lives right now, but in February, I'm going to Denver for a conference. It's called ETH Denver, and it's a 2-week event, and I'm having everything paid for. So it's like a really good opportunity that I don't really want to miss. I really hope it doesn't get canceled. But in the upcoming events, like I've known people that have gone in New York to San Francisco. They had some conferences in Lisbon and also in Paris. Like they're all over the place. And right now there's a lot of money being put into these organizations to fund students to go to these conferences to learn more about it. So definitely check out the events and don't miss out on any of the applications because they're super easy to do and very worthwhile, I would say. Like the people that you meet in your Telegram chat, which I guarantee you will get if you get roped into Web3. Yeah, they're amazing. They're super kind, super sweet. So it's worth applying and just like getting to know these people anyways, regardless if you get the scholarship or not. But yeah, that kind of wraps up. Oh, nope. Remember to claim your stamps in Discord for a potential prize. There is TAs. I need help with this, but stamps. I'll get back to that. But anyway, thank you everybody for coming to the workshop. I have my email, my Twitter, and my LinkedIn there if you want to connect with me. But yeah, I'll open the floor for any questions now. What are the stamps? TAs, do you have an idea of that? Where is Maggie? Maggie, help. I'll stop this. Oops. Ooh. I'm gonna stop the recording too.